March 14th, 2024, 5:47 a.m., Brickell Avenue, Miami, Florida. The sun hasn't cracked the horizon. Brickell is still dark, still quiet. That particular silence of a financial district before the trading floors open, before the espresso machines fire, before the first analysts swipe their badges and ride elevators to glass-walled offices 60 stories above Biscayne Bay. A convoy of unmarked black Suburbans rolls south on Brickell, headlights dimmed. No sirens, no strobes. 14 vehicles carrying 62 federal agents from Immigration and Customs Enforcement's Homeland Security Investigations Division and the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Financial Crimes Unit. They are not here for coffee. Their target sits between a legitimate Deutsche Bank satellite office and a high-end sushi restaurant at 1441 Brickell Avenue. A sleek, 7-story building clad in blue-tinted glass and brushed steel. The signage on the lobby wall reads, in polished chrome lettering, Meridian Atlantic Capital Group, established 2016, member FINRA, member SIPC. Those last two claims are lies. Meridian Atlantic Capital Group is not a member of the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. It is not protected by the Securities Investor Protection Corporation. It is not, in any legally recognizable definition, a bank. It is not an investment firm. What it is, what 62 federal agents are about to discover behind its walls, beneath its floors, and inside the personal residences of its executives, will become one of the largest single-site cash seizures in American law enforcement history. $890 million, not in accounts, not in wire transfers, not in digital ledgers, in the walls. The investigation that led to 1441 Brickell did not begin in Miami. It began 11 months earlier in a shipping container at the Port of Houston, July 2023. A routine inspection by Customs and Border Protection officers flags a 40-foot refrigerated container arriving from Cartagena, Colombia, manifested as carrying frozen tilapia destined for a seafood distributor in Hialeah, Florida. The X-ray scan shows anomalies, dense rectangular shapes stacked in uniform rows behind the frozen fish pallets. The officers cut the seal. Behind 22,000 pounds of tilapia, they find something else entirely. 47 vacuum-sealed bricks of United States currency, denominations of 50 and 100, total value $6.2 million. The shipping documents trace to a logistics company called Estrella Maritime Group, incorporated in Panama, with a forwarding address in Miami-Dade County. HSI opens a case file, agents begin pulling threads. Within 6 weeks, Estrella Maritime connects to 14 other shell companies across 4 countries: Panama, Colombia, the Cayman Islands, and the United States. Every single corporate thread, every fraudulent invoice, every fictitious bill of lading eventually routes through one central node. Meridian Atlantic Capital Group, 1441 Brickell Avenue, Miami, Florida. The man behind the chrome lettering is Andres Luciano Restrepo Vidal, 53 years old, born in Medellin, Colombia, naturalized U.S. citizen since 2009. On paper, on every paper he has ever presented to clients, regulators, real estate agents, Shanti, and Miami's social elite, Restrepo Vidal is a self-made success, a former economics professor at Universidad de los Andes who pivoted to private wealth management, philanthropist, art collector, regular attendee at the Perez Art Museum Miami Galas, 3-time donor to the Miami-Dade Police Athletic League. Photographs from society pages show him in tailored Tom Ford suits, shaking hands with city commissioners, posing beside a $4.3 million Jeff Koons sculpture he loaned to the Institute of Contemporary Art. His LinkedIn profile lists advisory roles with 2 Caribbean development funds and a seat on the board of a children's literacy nonprofit. None of it is real. Not the credentials, not the professorships, not the regulatory memberships displayed in the lobby. Andres Luciano Restrepo Vidal, federal prosecutors will allege, is the architect of a transnational money laundering operation that over 7 years moved an estimated $2.1 billion in narcotics, proceeds from South American drug trafficking organizations into the United States financial system. The investment bank was the machine. And the machine was elegant. Here's how it worked. Meridian Atlantic presented itself to a carefully curated client base as a boutique wealth management firm specializing in emerging market bridge financing, a term vague enough to sound sophisticated and specific enough to discourage further questions. Clients were courted through referrals only, no advertising, no public solicitation. To the outside world, it appeared exclusive. To the organizations funneling money through its doors, it was indispensable. Cash from narcotics operations in Colombia, Venezuela, and Mexico was physically transported into the United States through a network of 7 logistics fronts. Estrella Maritime was only one. Containers marked as seafood, agricultural equipment, auto parts, and industrial chemicals moved through ports in Houston, New Orleans, and Jacksonville. Each container carried between $3 million and $15 million in U.S. currency. Once inside the country, the cash was driven by private courier to Miami. Not to banks. Not to check cashing stores. To 1441 Brickell Avenue. Inside Meridian Atlantic, a team of 12 employees, prosecutors will call them placement specialists, processed the incoming currency. They logged it in a proprietary software system disguised as a standard client portfolio management platform. They assigned each deposit a fictitious client account number. They generated fabricated investment statements showing returns from non-existent bond portfolios and offshore equity positions. Then they moved the money. Through a web of 131 shell companies across 9 jurisdictions, funds were wire transferred in amounts carefully structured to avoid currency transaction reports. The technique is called structuring, and it is as old as money laundering itself. But Restrepo Vidal's operation elevated it to industrial scale. Some days, according to transaction logs later recovered by forensic accountants, the operation executed over 300 separate wire transfers totaling $40 million or more. Each transfer under the $10,000 reporting threshold, each routed through a different correspondent bank, each attributed to a different shell entity. The clean money emerged on the other side as real estate investments, luxury vehicle purchases, commercial development loans, and, most audaciously, donations to political campaigns and non-profit organizations that lent Restrepo Vidal his civic credibility. The circle was closed, the dirty money was washed, the professor was untouchable. Until Houston. When HSY agents began surveilling 1441 Brickell in September 2023, they expected a sophisticated financial front. They found one, but they also found something they did not expect. Thermal imaging conducted from an adjacent building showed heat signatures inconsistent with the structure's known electrical and HVAC systems. Entire sections of the 4th and 5th floors radiated heat patterns suggesting concealed electronic equipment, or something far denser than drywall and insulation. Agents obtained a federal search warrant on March 11, 2024. 3 days later, at 5:47 a.m., they executed it. The first breach team entered through the lobby, the second through a service entrance on the building's east side, the third through a rooftop access point. The building was empty except for a single overnight security guard, who was detained without incident. Initial sweep of the ground floor and offices revealed exactly what you would expect from a functioning financial firm. Bloomberg terminals, conference rooms with polished walnut tables, a reception area with Italian marble flooring and fresh orchids, client files, were fabricated, but everyone organized in locking cabinets. Then the agents reached the 4th floor. Behind a reinforced steel door disguised as a supply closet, they found a corridor that did not appear on any building blueprint filed with Miami-Dade County. The corridor led to a room approximately 40 feet by 60 feet. The room had no windows. It was climate-controlled to a precise 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside, floor to ceiling, stacked on industrial metal shelving units, agents found vacuum-sealed bricks of United States currency. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them, organized by denomination, labeled by date of receipt. The 5th floor contained an identical room, a concealed subfloor beneath the parking garage. Accessible through a hydraulic platform hidden beneath a drainage grate, held 42 fireproof safes. Each safe contained between $8 million and $12 million in cash. Counting would take the FBI's evidence response team 11 days. The final tally? $890,412,000 in U.S. currency. $890 million. Hidden in walls, floors, and safes of a building that Miami's financial district walked past every single day without a second glance. The arrests came fast. Restrepo Vidal was taken into custody at his waterfront residence on Star Island at 6:15 a.m. on March 14th, less than 30 minutes after the breach at Brickell. He was found in a silk robe, drinking Cuban coffee on a terrace overlooking the bay. He said nothing. His attorney, retained within the hour, issued a 2-sentence statement declining comment. Over the following 72 hours, the federal agents executed 23 additional arrest warrants across 4 states, 12 Meridian Atlantic employees, 4 logistics coordinators operating the shipping fronts, 3 attorneys who had facilitated the shell company network, 2 real estate brokers who had converted laundered funds into Miami-Dade property holdings totaling $167 million, 1 compliance officer at a regional bank whose willful blindness to structuring patterns had enabled years of undetected wire transfers. In Colombia, authorities coordinated simultaneous operations in Medellin and Bogota, arresting 6 individuals connected to the supply-side cash generation. Interpol issued red notices for 4 additional suspects believed to have fled to the United Arab Emirates. The federal indictment, unsealed on March 18th, ran 147 pages. It charged Restrepo Vidal with 43 counts, including conspiracy to commit money laundering, operation of an unlicensed money-transmitting business, bulk cash smuggling, structuring financial transactions to evade reporting requirements, wire fraud, and conspiracy to distribute controlled substances. The last charge connecting the laundered funds directly to cocaine trafficking operations responsible for an estimated 12 metric tons of product entering U.S. borders annually. If convicted on all counts, Restrepo Vidal faces a maximum sentence of 485 years in federal prison. At the press conference announcing the indictments, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida stood behind a podium flanked by the SEALs of HSY and the FBI. Behind her, projected on a screen, were photographs of the currency stacks found inside 1,441 brickle images that would circulate globally within hours. This defendant did not simply launder money, she stated. He built an institution designed to deceive. He built an institution that looked, felt, and operated like a legitimate pillar of this city's financial community. He attended our galas. He funded our charities. He shook our hands. And behind every handshake, behind every donation, behind every polished conference room on Brickell Avenue, there were drugs, there was violence, there were lives destroyed in communities from Medellin to Miami. The HSI special agent in charge was more succinct. You can put chrome letters on a building. You can buy a Jeff Koons. You can build rooms inside rooms and hide money inside walls. But you cannot hide from this agency. You cannot hide from these agents, and this case should make that very clear. The aftermath extends far beyond one building and one man. Federal regulators launched reviews of 3 correspondent banks implicated in the wire transfer network. Miami-Dade County initiated an audit of commercial building permits after the discovery of the concealed rooms, which had been constructed without any filed modification to the original building plans. The complicit bank compliance officer, facing her own indictment, entered a cooperation agreement within days of arrest, providing testimony that investigators say has opened inquiries into at least 2 additional financial institutions. The $890 million in seized currency was transported under armed escort to a Federal Reserve processing facility. The Star Island residence, purchased for $22.5 million in 2019 with laundered funds, has been placed under civil forfeiture proceedings alongside 11 other properties, a fleet of 17 vehicles including 3 Rolls-Royces and an armored Mercedes Maybach, the Jeff Koons sculpture, and a private art collection appraised at $31 million. Victim impact statements submitted during preliminary hearings came not from individual defrauded investors. There were none, because there were no real investors, but from communities. From families in Overtown and Liberty City who had buried children killed by the narcotics trade that Restrepo Vidal's machine financed. From a mother in Homestead who identified, in court documents, the specific trafficking network that had supplied the fentanyl-laced cocaine that killed her 17-year-old son. A network that had laundered $74 million through Meridian Atlantic between 2020 and 2023. $74 million, processed through a building with fresh orchids in the lobby. Consider this. For 7 years, a fake investment bank operated openly in one of America's premier financial districts. It had a website, it had a receptionist, it had Christmas parties, it sat between a Deutsche Bank office and a sushi restaurant, and it laundered over $2 billion in drug money while its founder collected accolades from the very city he was poisoning. The walls of 1,441 Brickell Avenue held $890 million in cash, but they also held something else, a question that federal investigators, regulators, and the citizens of Miami are now forced to confront. What else is hiding in plain sight? The investigation remains active. Additional indictments are expected. The chrome letters have been removed from the lobby wall. The building stands dark, sealed behind federal evidence tape, its blue-tinted glass reflecting a city that is still, even now, looking for answers behind its own walls.